On to the brakes, and I'll kick off with the front master cylinder. As a part of my Cafe Racer project, I had rebuilt all parts of the original brake system with new seal kits for the calipers and refurb kits for the masters. Also, as I did with the clutch lever bracket, I had stripped the paint from and polished both of the master cylinders. That effort was of course wasted, as to bring the bike back to a more standard look, I have more recently had these parts ceramic coated with Cerakote. As I never completed the brake system rebuild with my Cafe Racer, all of the relevant seals, rubbers, etc. are effectively unused, so I'm able to rebuild the masters and the calipers reusing what I have. As I did for the clutch, I've turned a new phosphor bronze bush and a stainless steel bolt for the lever. Internally, the rear master cylinder is the same as the front, but externally it has a different arrangement for actuating the piston via this lever that connects to the foot lever. For now, I've fitted a standard cap for the reservoir, but I will refit the original with the fluid level switch later. In its original form, the Guzzi would have come with the linked braking system, which I'm pretty sure was also fitted to the Le Mans 1 and 2. It was also used on a number of Benellis from the same era. With the linked system, the handlebar lever actuates just the front right caliper, and the foot lever actuates the front left and the rear calipers. Mine, like many, had been converted back to the more usual arrangement of the handlebar lever actuating both front calipers and the foot lever just the rear. I've decided to return mine to the linked system, which means I have to find the missing parts, and I'll come to those later. All three calipers on the bike are twin pot items of the same design, albeit with a left and right-handed pair for the front. As I'm reassembling them, I'm using brake fluid as a lubricant on the seals. It's important not to forget the O-ring that forms a seal for the port between the two parts of the body. Whilst I've got the calipers on the bench, I also fit the brake pads along with the retaining pins and spring. The pins need a little help with a hammer and punch to push home. And then I fit a stainless bleed nipple and a banjo bolt. To complete each, the cover for the pads is snapped into place. At some point in the bike's history, the original footpegs were replaced with these Tarozzi rear sets. I stripped these down to get the mounting brackets and the levers coated with Cerakote. Reassembly is the same for each side, although the mounting brackets are handed, this one being the left or gear change side. The chromed part is a lever that connects to the relevant linkage and can be orientated in a number of different positions, which will determine the angle at which the main lever sits when fitted. I add some grease to the pivot bolt before screwing it into the mounting bracket and securing it with a lock nut. On both sides there is a chromed lever subassembly, although it's different for each side. This one is for the left side, so the gear change. The links that were on the bike were pretty crappy, made up from some threaded bar and zinc plated parts, and I'm struggling to believe that these came with the Tarozzi rear set kits. Anyway, I previously made some new ones from stainless steel and gave them a good polish, although I have to reuse the ball joint that fixes to the lever on the back of the gearbox. To fit the rear sets, they are bolted onto the frame via the same bolts that secure the rear of the engine frame rails to the main frame. Once in place, I fit the link with the ball joint to the lever at the rear of the gearbox. and I then fit the lever sub-assembly. The pivot bolt for this is located into a threaded hole from inside of the frame, and then I secure it with a lock nut. This pivot bolt is the original Guzzi item that I had replated. I now connect the other end of the first link and then fit the second link to the chromed lever on the foot peg. On the right side for the foot brake, I run into an issue that arose earlier in the rebuild with the clutch lever at the gearbox. I did call out that the cable adjuster needed to be wound right out to get the clutch to disengage, and I dealt with that at the time by the adjuster screw on the lever. Unfortunately, this now puts the lever in the way of the brake assembly sublever, so I end up again with the cable adjuster wound right out. This does make me think that the cable inner is slightly too long, so I may come back to this later. On this side, the sublever pivot bolt has a slot, so fitting it is a bit easier than the left side. As I'm fitting a lock nut, I don't have any suitable washers to hand, but I will fit them when I get some in. As I did for the gear change, I previously made some stainless steel links to replace those that came with the bike. When I made the clevises for these links, I threaded one side for the pin to screw into, and then for security, I had lock nuts. I will Loctite the latter in place later. To finish off the linkage on this side, I fit a split pin to the pivot on the master cylinder lever. To complete the brake system, I will need to source some missing parts I mentioned earlier. I have managed to get hold of a brake manifold. This splits the circuit for the rear and front left calipers. However, after removing some badly applied paint, I decided to get it cerakoted to match the master cylinders, so I'll need to send that away to the coaters. I also need the two link pipes, both of which are available as new pattern parts. Once I have these, I'll be able to determine the length of the hoses and order in some new braided ones to suit. I'll cover off the completion of the brakes, which when completed will be another significant milestone in the next video. After that, I think I'll be moving on to the bodywork and paint. Thanks for watching.